You have, in this case, illegal aliens from Venezuela sent here by Maduro who are members of a foreign terrorist organization, Tren de Aragua, an organization that the intelligence community has found is operating at the direction of a hostile adversarial foreign regime carrying out criminal enterprises to destabilize the political system in the United States. Those are the facts when it comes to TDA. So they're all illegal, they're all gang members, they're all foreign terrorists. And now
Facts.
we are being told that they cannot be expelled from our country without an extraordinary amount of individualized adjudication at the district court, circuit court, Supreme Court, up and down, up and down, up and down. No American citizen receives this level of so-called due process. Because it isn't due process. This is called infinity process to keep you here forever. Yeah. That's what this is.
Oh no, it's crazy.
No American citizen charged with a crime, with a serious crime inside the United States, a U.S.-born American citizen receives this kind of process. Millions of dollars in free legal services, representation at every single level. Do you think that there is any, for example, any American citizen who was persecuted, who was innocent related to January 6th? Do you think they could just get this kind of relief, this kind of process? No. It was never available to them.
Yeah.
The whole system was rigged against them, just like it's rigged in favor of illegal alien invaders.
That's Stephen Miller bringing the heat as he always does. And it looks like Trump is not waiting around for the Supreme Court to act to remedy all of this. He's taking matters into his own hands. We've got the latest on how precisely Trump is poised to crush these liberal activist judges, including, if necessary, the Supreme Court. Come on in, gang. Great to see you all here. This is, it's amazing stuff that's unfolding right before us. Now, as many of you know, the Supreme Court issued a rare midnight injunction over the weekend against the Trump administration. That's what Stephen Miller was literally flipping out over. The Supreme Court is at least temporarily preventing the Trump administration from deporting a number of Venezuelan gang members who are, of course, here illegally. The exact reason for the injunction is not quite clear. It could be part of them putting it together with other cases to form a single larger ruling in the next few weeks. But Justice Alito thought the ruling was disgraceful. He even questioned its legality. Same with Justice Thomas as well. Again, we'll have to see how this all plays out at the level of the courts in the next several weeks. But in the meantime, it does look as if the Trump administration has been preparing for precisely this kind of showdown with the courts. But first, let's take a little stroll down memory lane, shall we? Do you remember how liberals were reacting just months ago after the Supreme Court rendered their decision on presidential immunity? Take a look at this.
The Democrats had elected people. The Supreme Court is completely his. It's so disgraceful, this court, that it shouldn't even be allowed to be called the Supreme Court. It isn't. It's an insult to Motown to call it the Supreme Court. So it's not even a court. It's only a court in the sense that the court of Louis XVI was a court. Basically, it's a harem, okay? It's a harem. It's Trump's harem. So I always feel sorry for the three real judges on the court. I know a lot of people have jobs, not me, not you, and you have to go to work every day, and there are people you don't like at work. But can you imagine having to go to work every day? Alito? You have to go to work with Alito, with Kavanaugh? It must be horrible. So what Biden should do, not that you asked, but when they passed that law, the Supreme Court passed that ruling, where they said, you're not the president, you're the king, which is what that ruling is. You can do whatever you want. You can never be, held responsible. I thought, Biden's still the president. No one seems to notice. But Biden should dissolve the Supreme Court.
dissolve the Supreme Court?
I'm the president. I'm the king now, like you said, and go home.
I mean, those clapping seals, how pathetic. And we saw that again and again and again after they reversed Roe v. Wade. Actually, every time the court ruled in a way that liberals didn't like, you got more and more Democrats openly saying, we need to pack the court. We need to defy the court. We need to impeach all these judges we don't like. AOC was telling Biden he needed to ignore the court after they shot down the constitutionality of his student loan forgiveness, and on and on and on. And now that the court is ruling in a way that they like, well, now ignoring the court is the single greatest threat to democracy in the history of the republic. I mean, it's so utterly pathetic. And what it does is it foregrounds the reality that when all is said and done, this is a civilizational battle. This isn't a battle over the courts. This isn't a battle over D.C. This is a battle over the soul of the nation. And the Democrats are going to use every exploitive weapon they possibly can, no matter how inconsistent, to try to desperately, by their fingertips, hold on to the old liberal world that is disappearing right before their very eyes. But again, the good news here is, regardless, Trump is not waiting around for the Supreme Court to act. Now, I've really benefited from the work of Jeff Childers. I'm not sure how to say his last name, so forgive me if I'm pronouncing it wrong. Childers. I'll just say Childers to make it consistent if I am. He's a lawyer and a very good legal commentator, and I really like his Substack. It's very informative on legal issues, and he's making the argument that Trump has already long been building a case to have Congress pass a continuing resolution, a CR, that would include suspending the writ of habeas corpus, which has been done historically before. So there's precedent for this. So, and it's I'll just give you his basic argument because I think he's right on here. So if you don't know, habeas corpus gives due process rights to anyone detained by the government and gives anyone jailed an in-person court hearing. It also bars indefinite detention. In other words, the federal government can't just disappear people. And so this is the kind of maddening rulings that we've been getting from these lower courts, these activist judges who are all demanding that all 15 to 30 million illegal migrants have to get due process, which is, and they know this, it's completely untenable. It's completely unfeasible. I mean, it would take literally hundreds of years to fulfill that completely unreasonable, and I would argue unlawful requirement. So there is a constitutional way around that madness. What's so interesting here is that the Constitution prescribes exactly what circumstances habeas corpus can be suspended with. It says it in Article 1, Section 9, Clause 2, that habeas corpus can indeed be suspended in cases of rebellion or invasion. So if the perpetrators are legally designated as invaders, then habeas corpus can indeed be suspended. It would be something akin to not having to enact due process before the robber that just broke into your house could be forced to leave, right? Have you seen this meme? There's a great meme that's going around. So a robber breaks into your home, you get your gun out and you chase him out of your house, but then all of a sudden a judge pops up and says, stop, you can't kick him out without due process, right? That's the absurdity that we're dealing here with these activist judges. And that's exactly how Trump looks like he is handling this. According to Article 1, Section 9, habeas corpus can be suspended in the case of rebellion or invasion. And what President Trump did, of course, right at the very beginning of his 2.0 presidency, one of the first EOs he signed was he declared mass illegal immigration a what? What did he declare it? It was an invasion, a state of emergency invasion. He used precisely the term that Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution gives him to suspend habeas corpus. And then, secondly, Trump has, as you know, invoked the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 the act at the heart of a number of these key cases, which invokes precedent for wartime-style legal authority over foreign nationals, bypassing peacetime due process requirements and protections. And so what this lawyer is arguing here is that it does look to him as if Trump has been already these past 3 months setting the stage precisely for the suspension of habeas corpus, which he can constitutionally do, but he needs Congress's approval. This was another insight that this fellow had. Past Supreme Court rulings define the power ultimately to suspend the writ as a legislative power, not an executive power. And so Trump appears to be in the process of setting up Congress to pass the suspension of writ for illegals in their next CR, in their next continuing resolution, which would only require a simple majority vote in the Senate, being a budget reconciliation bill. So that's what this lawyer, Jeff Childers, thinks Trump is doing as we speak. All the signs point to the fact that Trump is completely removing the whole issue of due process entirely from the courts, at least when it comes to the mass deportations. It's a very bold, frankly, breathtaking, 4D, 5D chess strategy. And so in the end, Childers argues that Trump more or less is basically painting the Supreme Court into a corner, and they recognize this. Our good friend Larry Schweikert is seeing that as well. Either get on board, Supreme Court, either get on board defending the country against this invasion in your upcoming decision and suspend the need for due process because of the emergency situation yourself, or Trump is going to take it upon himself and render you irrelevant based on his Article 1, Section 9 powers. That's your choice. Either way, these illegal migrants are going home. They're getting deported by the mass millions. Either way, Trump wins. And this lawyer does think in the end, everything is going to work out in Trump's favor. There's just kind of no way around. It's like watching a chess match and you're seeing checkmate is already baked into the cake. It's just a matter of what moves the opponent makes in order to walk into that checkmate. So Trump will win this. And the days of an activist judiciary, at least when it comes to mass deportations, will finally be a thing of the past. And did you see this? President Trump just signed an executive order outlining his plans to create America's first national sovereign wealth fund, and it'll need to be filled up with assets fast. I mean, Trump wants to go live in the next 90 days with this. The Wall Street types are already trying to pack it with real estate and infrastructure and pieces of trendy companies like TikTok. But let's not forget about gold. Sovereign wealth funds love to buy gold in bulk. Australia's been loading up. Saudi Arabia is buying the world's largest gold mine to supply itself. And even tiny Singapore recently added more than 100 metric tons of gold to its vault. Now, can you imagine what would happen to the per ounce price of gold, which has already been surging sky high since Trump took office, if America's new sovereign wealth fund followed international best practices and made gold a part of its diversified portfolio? I mean, it would potentially make our country a brand new mega buyer in an already tight market. And when there's limited supply and huge demand, the impact on prices, well, let's just say you're going to want to be ready. Now, there's a simple way to get ready, too. It's all laid out for you in the free gold report from my partners at TurleyTalksLikesGold.com. You'll want to request your copy right away. You don't have a lot of time in this. President Trump has put the world on notice. A new sovereign wealth fund for America may be coming perhaps in as little as the next 90 days. Take advantage of the time you have to prepare. Get your free gold report now at TurleyTalksLikesGold.com. You will not be disappointed.
First of all, the mood of the country. This really jumped out. We asked folks, is it on the right direction or the wrong direction? That 44%, you say right direction, that's up since November. And if that doesn't seem like a lot, the last time it cracked 40%, you got to go back to 2012. The last time it actually hit 44 or higher, January of 2004.
Recent jaw-dropping polls show that Donald J. Trump is absolutely crushing it right now against the fledgling Democrats. The mainstream media's panic machine has been in overdrive, as you know, but the numbers don't lie. Trump has been up since March, and he's winning over young voters and diverse demographics like never before. The left is spiraling, and Trump is paving the way to make them electorally irrelevant. While the mainstream media has been trying to whip up mass panic over tariffs and trying to paint Trump's agenda as an economic disaster, well, as it turns out, to the legacy media's horror, the American people are largely ignoring them. But here's where things get really interesting. Trump is making historic inroads with groups that the left has taken for granted for decades. Young voters, voters under 30, are showing up for Trump in numbers we've frankly never seen before. Exit polls from 2024 and recent surveys show Trump made massive gains, particularly with younger men and even young men of color. They're just fed up with the less endless lectures and policies that simply don't deliver. And it's not just young voters. Trump is flipping the script with Black, Hispanic, and Asian voters as well. Polls are showing him pulling in support from these groups at levels that have Democrats literally sweating bullets. So, for example, one survey found that nearly half of Hispanic voters approve of Trump's job performance, and Black voters are giving him higher marks than any Republican in recent memory. Now, this is due to Trump's message of economic strength, secure borders, and common sense policies that resonate across the board. The left's stranglehold on these demographics is breaking, and Trump's building a coalition that is simply unstoppable. Ironically, recent polls show that even a majority of Democrats are siding with Trump on some of the biggest policies. So, for example, 63% of Democrats support deporting illegal immigrants who committed crimes. You heard that right. 63%. I guess the other 30+% are precisely those illegal immigrants committed crimes, right? But that's a super majority from within the Democrat Party. The party that's been preaching open borders for decades is seeing its own voters completely reject that globalist vision. More than half of Democrats also support closing our borders and ending waste, fraud, and abuse in our government. The left is in big trouble. Trump is crushing it, and the left is crumbling under the weight of their own bad ideas. The polls don't lie, and the American people are sending a very clear message. We want strength, we want security, and we want common sense. Well, joining us today is someone who has all three of those things. To both analyze and revel in these numbers is the one and only Wayne Allyn Root, TV and radio host legend, who's long been predicting precisely this moment of MAGA ascent and utter decay of the Democrat Party. Wayne, welcome, my friend. Great to see you again.
Hey, Steve, or should I call you Dr. Steve? Either way, Dr. Steve. Great to be with you. Let me mention, by the way, Root for America. That's where everybody can find me, my TV shows, my podcasts, my radio shows, my books, and my commentary several times a week. Rootforamerica.com. And yes, it's great to be with you and great to be alive in Trump 2.0.
It is amazing. We'll have all those links down below for you to be able to access Wayne's amazing content. Yeah, I mean, what can I say? It's like Christmas every morning, and the polls are bearing that out. You've been covering these jaw-dropping polls that are all showing Trump's astonishing surge in support in this
with a couple of caveats. With a couple of caveats, just to show you I'm always honest. Nobody's perfect, right? I think Trump is the greatest human being that we could ever have as president of the United States in history. He's fantastic. I think he's accomplished more in the first 100 days than my hero Ronald Reagan did in 8 years.
Yeah.
Everything about him is amazing, but let me give you a couple of caveats just to show you I'm honest and it's not all perfect. Number one, I'm all for the tariffs. I believe the tariffs are fantastic and necessary, or 10 years from now, we'd all be serfs to the Chinese. So thank God he did it. And he had the balls/cojones to do this, but he's risking the entire midterms if he doesn't make this work in a matter of months. Then the midterms are over, we lose, and his presidency is over. So it is the biggest gamble in the history of politics. And I think he will win. I think he's always a winner. I think this is a winning strategy, and I think he'll win in the next 6 to 9 months, and that puts us right in front of the midterms, and he'll be a hero and a champ in front of the midterms. All great, but if I'm wrong, and if he's guessed and gambled wrong, we got big problems in the midterm. So that's caveat number 1. And caveat number 2 is I hope and pray that behind the curtain, there's a lot going on we can't see. You know, like a person swimming above the water, you don't see their legs churning below. I hope that Pam Bondi is the right person for Attorney General. I have my doubts. I wanted someone who will arrest people. And I'm getting thousands of emails from my fans, thousands a week saying, where are the arrests?
Where are the arrests?
There's so many bad judges, so many bad people, so many bad Democrats in Congress, and they should be under arrest. And nobody's arresting Alejandro Mayorkas or the border czar Kamala Harris or Dr. Fauci. No indictments. And how about Clapper and Brennan from the last administration, and Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, who spied on Trump, therefore committed treason, and all the judges trying to stop the deportations. Let me ask you a big question. This is my commentary I'm going to write. The minute we're done, Steve, with this interview, I'm writing a commentary. It's going to be called The Single Most Important Question in the History of the World. You know what that question is? Why do Democrats care more about illegal alien criminal scumbags, including people with MS-13 on their knuckles, than they do about you and me as citizens of the United States? Can anybody answer that? It's so weird. It's so bizarre. Wade Root has an answer. Steve, calling me. Teacher, calling me.
Go, man, go.
You know what the answer is? They're all on the payroll of the Mexican drug cartel.
Yeah.
They want to keep the border open, so they keep getting their payments in their offshore accounts. The judges are bribed. The politicians are bribed. The congressmen are bribed. Biden's crime family was bribed. The Clinton crime family bribed. The Obama crime family bribed. And the Alejandro Mayorkas crime family bribed. And Kamala's crime family bribed. They're all making maybe hundreds of millions in offshore bank accounts from both who makes the fentanyl and the Mexican drug cartel who traffics the fentanyl. And that's what's making everybody so desperate. Whoever is someone desperate to help an MS-13 scumbag? Who would be desperate to fly to El Salvador to save them like they're the most important people in the world? It's bizarre.
Well, notice they're only sending those who are in like plus 30 Democrat, districts and so forth. Anybody who's any purple districts, they're staying away from this issue like it's leprosy.
Yeah, let me point out that back in 2010 through 2014, who was the president? Obama. What's Obama's connection to me? He was my college classmate at Columbia University, class of '83. We graduated on the same day, both political science majors, both pre-law majors. And I was hitting him so hard on Fox News that he was a Manchurian candidate, that he was never there, that not one student at Columbia ever saw him. And if he was there, that explains why he's a communist, because all they taught us at Columbia was Communism 101. So this guy's a bad guy. And I'm on Fox News saying this, and Obama's just been elected, Steve. And what happens? A knock on the door. It's the Internal Revenue Service. They're not allowed to knock on the door. Phone calls, they're not allowed to call. They're calling me and telling me I'm being audited. Nobody does that. There is no such thing. It was a chilling Nazi Gestapo, Soviet KGB-like attempt to stop me. And they tried to destroy my life. And I'm talking about this in the media, Fox News, day and night. I'm writing it for the Blaze, Glenn Beck, day and night. I'm writing it on foxnews.com. And not one congressman or judge came to my aid. Nobody cared that the government was trying to destroy my life illegally. No president can do that. And after we proved that they did that with Tom Fitton of Judicial Watch, guess what? Crickets. Nobody ever got indicted. Nobody ever went after anyone. No one ever interviewed me. I never even got a phone call. How come they care so much about an illegal alien? It makes no sense, except they're paid off. I wasn't paying anybody. And the illegal aliens, well, the Mexican drug cartel has billions to play with.
It seems to me that it's exactly right, because the revelations of Doge have at that, and I think that's even just superficial levels at this point, but they really did reveal that NGOs were functioning more or less like a parallel government, a government in the shadows, as it were. And they're the ones who are really running things, because they're the ones who are dipping into the slush funds, as it were.
And you know who's running them? I think Obama was giving them their orders, and his
Yeah.
shadow White House just steps from the White House, just a few blocks away. No president in history ever left the presidency and moved into a mansion a few blocks from the White House. And all the important people were meeting there every day. And is Obama the leader? No, I think Obama's the order taker. I think the order giver is the Chinese Communist Party. I think they bribed everybody, and everyone's doing their bidding to destroy the United States and the United States economy and Donald Trump and hit us with COVID. All of that was all a concerted conspiracy to destroy this country, the economy, and the great American middle class, and sow crisis and chaos in our country day and night.
Yeah, but you've been part of leading the mass resistance, as it were, the true resistance, the great revolt that gave us probably. I mean, Rich Barris, the pollster, is arguing that November 5th was the biggest landslide victory we've seen since 1984. He thinks it's bigger than 1988 because Herbert Walker Bush was basically profiting off of a coalition that wasn't his. It was still that was Reagan's third term, and he unraveled it real fast and literally.
Well, I would argue it's bigger than Reagan. Let me tell you why I think it's bigger than even Reagan's two landslides at 80 and 84. First of all, the world was very different. There weren't all these groups, the deep state, the DC swamp, the resistance judges, all the colleges. I mean, everybody in the world is the unions, Hollywood, Silicon Valley. Everybody was arrayed against Trump 3 times in a row, all trying to destroy his life. The corporations, Wall Street, you name it. Everybody hates Trump. The whole world hated Trump. It wasn't the case with Reagan. I was there. Lots of people hated him on the left, but they weren't coordinated the way they are now. For Trump to have overcome all that, plus January 6th, plus being called an insurrectionist, plus 4 trials and indictments and convictions, a mugshot. I mean, it's impossible.
And then the shot J13, right?
Two assassination attempts where they had him dead to rights. The first time for sure, probably the second time. If he had just gone to the next golf hole, the guy was perched right in front of where he would have been, would have blown his brains out. And so, when you think of the conspiracies of government and the deep state now versus the Reagan years, he was a happy, affable Gipper. They all thought, yeah, all right, we can live with him. He was not harsh like Trump. He didn't try to dismantle government. He didn't close government agencies. Trump is just a bulldog, man. Bull in a china shop. And they know how dangerous he is. And the jig is up. And they're all scared. And he still won 3 times. Steve, I'm telling you, he won the second time.
I'm with
3 times. And you add it up. You know what he added up? He get 215 million votes or 213 million votes. Not in front of me. But he got 63 million, 74 million, and 77 million, if your math's better than mine. I think it's 213 or 215. That's more than anyone in the history of America has ever got. It's not even close. FDR won 5 times. You know how many votes he got each time? 20 million, 20 million, 20 million, 25 million, 29 million. I mean, we just got elected a guy with the biggest landslide 3 times in history.
Yep. He just keeps growing and growing and growing his coalition. What do you make of 63% of Democrats supporting Trump's policy of deporting illegal migrants who've committed crimes? I mean, this clearly seems to be pre-political, right? It transcends partisanship, and it seems to be it's also part of this 80-20 doom loop the Democrats are in. He's planted his flag firmly in the new common sense consensus that, as you said, is growing by leaps and bounds every year. Whereas the Democrats they've doubled down on the most extreme 20%.
Well, look, we all know that politicians are slime balls, right? Everybody knows that. And so if they believe something, Steve, and they see the polls, they switch. Never have we seen a party that's as suicidal as the Democrat Party. They know nobody wants men in women's sports. They know no one wants boys in girls' rooms and girls' locker rooms. Right. They know that everyone loves their dogs, yet they just announced on CNN that dogs are causing climate change. Let's see you take my dogs away from me. You'll have to take them from my cold, dead hands. As Charlie
that's right. Amen.
Now they're after dogs. How stupid are these people? And they love illegals, even though everybody wants to get rid of the illegals. So how do you explain that? It's all payoffs. I'm telling you.
Yeah. No, I think you're onto it. There's got to be profit. There's got to be profit there. That's what motivates us all in the end, in some way, even if it's an ideological profiting, but they've got to be profiting off of this.
And do you remember in third grade, we had something called show and tell? And if you told your classmates, my father is a military hero, they'd go, oh, yeah, okay, right. Everyone says that. Then you bring him to show and tell, and he's 6'3" and handsome, and he has 26 ribbons on his chest. And they go, wow, you were telling the truth. Show and tell works. That's why everyone's on our side with illegal immigration, because the average American is seeing it with their own eyes. They're living with it. Their kids are in school. Half the classroom is filled with illegals, and the teacher has to teach in English and then translate to Spanish. Nobody's learning anything. This is a disaster. Everyone's neighborhood is under attack, and they're being literally slaughtered, raped, robbed by illegal aliens. The streets in New York City, where I come from originally, just filled with illegals sleeping in the street. Anybody can see this is no good. It's poison. It's bad for America. We can't allow this. You know, I'd ask any liberal a simple question. Do you go to sleep at night with your doors open? Do you let criminals in your house on purpose with the door open? You can't be that dumb. So why would you leave the door of your country open? The whole thing is bizarre. It's just bizarre.
It is. It is completely alienated from any semblance of reality, any kind of sense of objective reality. What do you think about tariffs, the tariff policies of Trump, and how they're playing into this political realignment? We're finding in poll after poll that working class voters who've largely defected to Trump, first the white working class in 2016, and now increasingly the non-white working class, particularly Latinos, they seem to be the most supportive of these tariffs because they see manufacturing, industrial jobs coming home. Do you think that's going to help to even expand the sort of working class centered MAGA coalition?
Well, you know, I'm going to be 64 years old, believe it or not. I can't believe it.
You look great, man. You look awesome.
I work out 2 hours a day in the gym, so thank you. But I am going to be 64 years old in July, coming up fast. And I bring that number up because I've been in politics since I was 3. Wow. My dad held me in his arms, handing out literature for Barry Goldwater at a train station at a supermarket in Mount Vernon, New York. That was my start in politics. Yeah. And when I was 17, I was the manager of a congressional campaign. My lifelong thing is politics, and I know how to win elections. And I'm telling you, I've been arguing for 50 plus years that the Republican Party has got to be the party of the working class and the middle class. Yep. And Trump's the only, Reagan a little bit, but Trump is the only real guy who ever got it completely. Maybe it's because, you know, he's a billionaire, but he's a